The chandelier above the grand hall glimmered like a constellation trapped in crystal, its radiant light washing over the Dupree family gathered in celebration. The banquet had been designed to display perfection: silken gowns, tailored suits, glasses of rare champagne raised against marble pillars polished to gleaming brilliance. Kat, elevated as the embodiment of grace and lineage, moved like an emblem of untouchable pride, unaware that beneath the varnished surface of the night, shadows had gathered, patient and merciless. The first tremor arrived with the groan of a hidden mechanism. In the library adjoining the hall, a concealed door shifted open, exhaling the stale breath of secrets long buried. From the darkness spilled a cascade of papers, dossiers meticulously collected, photographs snapped in the dim corners of alleys, receipts of transactions that whispered of corruption. Anita's silent work, carried through months of careful observation, was no longer hidden. The evidence tumbled onto the floor in chaotic display, spreading across the velvet carpet like a malignant growth that no one could look away from. The family froze. Their smiles fractured, their composure cracked. Leslie's face drained of its practiced charm as her hands darted forward, desperate to conceal what had already been revealed. Yet fate mocked her. The projector, still warm from earlier festivities, caught a fragment of paper and magnified it against the ivory wall. The images enlarged, photographs of Leslie meeting in secret, signatures scrawled on contracts that tied her name to covert transfers, symbols of betrayal too clear to deny. Every eye followed the projected revelations as silence smothered the air, thick as smoke. Then Randy, unable to resist the gravity of exposure, raised his hand in sudden accusation. The gesture was sharp, violent in its clarity, but before the family could comprehend the direction of blame, Anita stepped into the center of the room. She moved with a calm forged from certainty, her eyes cold, her hand lifting a remote that awoke another screen. From it, a new horror emerged: grainy surveillance footage, the timestamp pulsing like a heartbeat. Danny appeared on the screen, her movements clandestine, her figure leaning into the shadows with a figure known to the family only as an enemy. It was not Leslie alone. Danny had spun a web that threaded through every unspoken doubt. The silent manipulator had been within their walls all along. Shock fractured into chaos. Danny's image, magnified for all to see, rewrote the boundaries of loyalty. Kat staggered as though struck, Nicole clutched the edge of the table, Ted froze in incomprehension. The family, once bound by name and blood, now trembled at the realization that betrayal was not external, it was internal, it was theirs. Then, without warning, sound shattered the paralysis. A gunshot cracked through marble and silk, a brutal punctuation in the theater of revelation. Haley collapsed, her body folding onto the floor, white silk soaking instantly into crimson bloom. Her fall silenced even the breath of the chandeliers. For a moment time seemed suspended, the metallic echo of the shot reverberating, the acrid scent of gunpowder drifting through the perfumed air. Nicole's scream tore the stillness apart, raw and primal, yet the rest of the family stood frozen, their eyes transfixed on the weapon still smoking in the trembling grip of a figure half-shrouded in shadow. The shooter had not yet revealed their face. That anonymity was a weapon sharper than the bullet itself, for every member of the Dupree family felt the sting of suspicion carved through them. Each was capable. Each had motive. Each had secrets coiled beneath the skin. The celebration collapsed into carnage. Guards rushed, but their authority faltered at the threshold of Dupree power. Blood marked the marble like a curse, spreading outward as though to claim more. Haley's body, fragile and lifeless, became the silent epicenter of everything the family had hidden. In that moment, all pretense of nobility dissolved. What remained was the raw truth of survival. Anita, still holding her remote, did not flinch. Her plan had been meticulous, her trap merciless, but she had not predicted the gunshot. The sudden death twisted her carefully laid exposure into something more dangerous, a spiral beyond control. Leslie, trembling, tried to regain composure, but the documents still lay scattered, the screen still exposed her dealings. Danny's image burned into the minds of all present, and Randy's accusation hung like a noose, ready to tighten around anyone who faltered. Kat's poise cracked into visible panic. For years she had been untouchable, the centerpiece of perfection, yet now she stood stained by association. Every gaze turned, questioning how much she had known, how deeply she had been entwined with Danny's treachery, how willing she had been to uphold Leslie's lies. Her silence was heavier than denial, and it made her vulnerable. Ted's stillness was more disturbing than hysteria. He did not scream, he did not run, but his eyes, fixed on the weapon, betrayed a recognition he would not confess. He knew the hand that held it. He had seen it before in nights of weakness, in moments when the mask of civility slipped. That recognition bound him in terror, for if he spoke, the truth might consume him next. The family fractured before the body had cooled. Nicole, her voice gone hoarse from grief, collapsed beside Haley, her tears painting the white marble. Anita seized the moment, her words silent but her intent clear. This was not an accident, not a random act of violence. It was the culmination of years of deceit, and those who survived would be forced to choose sides or perish in the storm to come. The aftermath unfolded like a slow collapse of empire. Outside the hall, whispers grew among staff and allies, the servants who had seen the flicker of shadows, the guards who had heard half-confessions in drunken nights. News of Haley's death would spread, but the truth of who had pulled the trigger remained locked in the hall, shared only by those who had most to lose. And within that silence, suspicion metastasized. Every glance became a weapon. Every memory of loyalty became a liability. Anita withdrew into isolation, guarding her evidence like a fortress, yet fear not even at her. She had exposed too much. Danny, though unmasked, was not defeated. Somewhere beyond the reach of the chandeliers, Danny would be plotting, recalibrating, ready to strike again with the venom of betrayal. Leslie, stripped of dignity, began weaving a new net of manipulation, desperate to cling to relevance. Randy, shaken by his own outburst, now carried the weight of being the first to accuse, painting a target upon himself. Nicole, shattered by loss, became a wild card, her grief fermenting into unpredictable rage. Kat, once adored, now stood at the precipice of ruin, her perfection rotting into suspicion. Ted, paralyzed by knowledge, carried a secret heavier than all the evidence Anita had revealed. The Dupree family had entered the night adorned in wealth, confidence, and spectacle. They left it drenched in blood, betrayal, and silence. Yet the true horror was not the death of Haley, nor the exposure of Leslie, nor even the betrayal of Danny. It was the certainty that someone, unseen and calculating, had orchestrated every step, every reveal, every collapse. A hand had guided them into destruction, and that hand remained hidden. The family was no longer a dynasty. They were prey, hunted not by strangers, but by one of their own. And as the blood cooled on the marble floor, the gates that once promised safety became a prison. The Dupree family, once envied, now faced only one question: who among them would survive the unraveling, and who had already sold their soul to the darkness within?